is the Deering Acting Studio podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting. Hey, what is good, America?
That was a nice little surprise there you had for me, Joey.
Thank you, man.
That.
Thank you. I just thought of it, and I was like, you know what? I'm a pull the TikTok trend. I'm a point at text as it pops up.
Is that the thing?
That is the thing.
I love pointing at text.
I do. It's oddly satisfying pointing at text.
Maybe I was on the early trend and I didn't even know it, and I should have really stuck with it.
I mean, you have text in front of you every morning, so you could just point and just be like, "This is Mornings with Matt." Yeah, a little lower.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mornings with Matt.
Hey,
the Deering Acting Studio podcast. All right, so today we're going to talk about you get out what you put in. And this concept connects all the way across the board here. You're gonna feel totally relaxed. You're gonna feel confident if you put in the effort. If you focus on the things that are hard to do, like let's just say memorization. If I put a lot of work into memorizing, whether it be for a speech or it be for an acting job or even a sales script, the more work I put in, the more confidence I'm going to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Totally.
All right. So where else does this idea apply?
Ooh, me,
anybody,
pick me. Hey.
Joey Sweeney.
What? Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, okay, cool. I had a cool idea. Okay, this applies in something we got coming up this week. That is our masterclass scene study intensive. Now, let me tell you guys, I have been in the class for just over 2 years now, bounced between scenes, different scene partners, and this is exactly the concept that you get from that. It's the work you put in is what you get out in the room. Everybody puts in these hours to memorize these plays, learn their characters, and then you go in and you have to trust your work, no matter where you're at. Honestly, you go in, you're honest with where you're at. Matt always questions. That's what he does. That's what a good coach does too. And he's in there and he just kind of molds you like a piece of clay if you let him. And all of that comes from the work you do beforehand. There's nothing you can do the day of or the day before that will really propel you forward in the classroom. It's that constant progression of, hey, I'm going to work on this every day. This is important to me. This is a priority. And then when I get in the room, that's when I get to go have fun, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love this example, Joey. I remember we've got a good friend and loyal student, Jay Jordan, who's a big part of the program. And I remember he was in the masterclass for quite a while, probably over a year. And I remember him like, he said something to me like, I just want to really maximize what I'm doing in the class. And the truth is he was a hard worker. So like he would put in the grind for sure. Mm-hmm. But I told him, I said, hey, truthfully, you'll get more out of the weekend if you start changing your mindset and giving in fully to the masterclass experience. Because Jay used to be one of those guys that would grind on his own scene, show up and then go. And he would usually be, off to work on his next project or his next whatever. And then he flipped his mindset and he started dedicating himself to the actual class. I remember like there was a flip, and all of a sudden he's a part of the congratulating everybody after their scene and helping set up the stage. And, and he even went from like, dressing a certain way to being like in the class. Like you could just tell that he was a part of the class. And that was a big shift for him mentally, to allow himself to step into being an actor and like living into that idea. Yeah.
While we're talking about this, it's cool because I got the opportunity to be Jay's scene partner, and I begged for it. I watched him and Greg do Betrayal early when I was first starting Masterclass, and I was always always saw that work ethic in him.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is cool because honestly, we talk about this a lot. We talk about it on the show. It's funny because it's in our intro, but the connection between life and acting, right? And Jay is one of those guys who just grinds in his career. He's just he's always loud on social media. He's talking about what he's doing, how he can help you with you can help me with exactly what he does. He's in real estate, but
he sells houses.
Yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, the work ethic there totally transfers over, and getting to be a scene partner, watching that firsthand is so cool because he was honestly so respectful every time he came in the room to rehearse. He was ready to go, and he would get these phone calls off the hook, and I hit a point where I was like, bro, I really appreciate you putting it on silent, but like, take the phone call, take the sale, you know, go ahead. That's your job. I get that. I really do. So like, if you need to step out for 5 minutes, make a phone call, get that lead going, like, do it, bro. Do it.
Yeah.
And I just love that idea. And you're totally right. I mean, that was one of the things where he and I became really good friends and gained a mutual respect for each other, I think, by watching each other's scenes over the time. So getting to be scene partners was really, really cool.
Yeah, dude, that's a really, really good point. And then so then if we take this concept, this what you put in, which is what you get out, idea. Let me relate it really quick to let's say family. Okay. So I have a tradition when I come home. It doesn't matter what time of day, I celebrate my kids. And I mean, like, all in, I celebrate my kids. I get very excited. I can't wait to find them. And they know that when I go in there, dad is going to lift them up. I'm going to pick them up and hold them up in the air. And it's a whole thing. It's a big to-do. And it's funny because now I've got 3 of those little rugrats running around, and it's the cutest thing. But what's interesting is my dedication to putting that in, you know, and I put that time in each and every day. Now it's crazy. It's almost like Pavlov's dog. When the door chime rings, my kids come running.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're trying to beat each other, including my 1.5-year-old, trying to elbow each other to be the first one to get lifted up by dad.
I'm gonna tackle you, brother and sister, because I am going to get the first lift.
And I can tell you that almost nothing in the world lights me up more than that moment. But it's one of those things where I put the time in consistently. Eventually I got that thing back out, and now it became a thing, essentially.
Yeah.
So let's take that same idea now and let's apply it to the food that we eat. You get in, or I'm sorry, you get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. So as far as the nutrition that you're putting into your body, you make choices like what's going to go in my body, and then that's going to come out, that it's going to manifest itself in some way, shape, or form. So all food can be very good. It's a matter of, you understanding exactly what it's doing to you and being willing to come to terms with the fact that it is your choice, that you're the one creating your own future, creating your own reality based on the choices that you make. So then what I believe is the most powerful food that we can take in, the most powerful nutrition, is actually what we feed our minds. And this is the absolute essential number one thing anybody could take away from today, and even in general, is like this idea of you are programming your mind each and every day depending on the things that you say to yourself and that you allow others to say to you. And so this is why we have to be so careful with the mindless just clutter that comes through our phones and comes through our computers.
Yes.
And not allowing certain things to get to us. I know, like I like looking up sports.
Me too.
Okay. And so what's interesting though is 99%, probably all of them, probably 100% of these different sports apps and sports, news outlets and whatnot, they're still the news. They just are.
Yeah.
And they're businesses.
Yeah.
Therefore, they drive people to their site. How? By creating rumors and spreading different news ideas and trying to grab you with clickbait.
Yeah.
And then they smack you in the face with advertisements that will take you down a different wormhole. And then you'll be reading a different sports story that you didn't even care about.
Yeah.
Then you'll be all of a sudden looking at like buying something or purchasing something or looking at something that you don't want to look at. And it's like, it all started from this idea of like, I let myself get distracted for 1 second. And then I got to be honest, like that took me down this path. And then what I'm putting into my mind, I'm getting back out.
Yeah.
It's feeding it right back to me.
100%. I've got a cool couple ideas here on this because I love this. And one of them is just going back to that routine, that relationship you have with your kids. And I was listening to a motivation, and the guy says he said that his dad did that for him as well. He was like, my dad always picked me up every time, and then when I wasn't when I was too big, when I couldn't get picked up anymore, he still picked me up in different ways. And like he noticed that throughout his life. And he said, so that's something that he will never not do for his kids. And it's that idea of it's a physical, nonverbal representation of what a father is, right? And the support that you have for your kids, for your family, the importance of that. And then the trust grows from there. And if you start that at a young age, I can only imagine, like as a dad, how beneficial that is to your relationship with each and every one of your kids.
Yeah,
right?
100%. And even with my wife, like for her to see that and know that I'm going to do that and consistently do that. I want to give this guy credit, Joey, because
oh, you've heard it.
not only have I heard it, that's where I got this from.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
It made me cry, and I would listen to it over and over again because it was so inspirational. The guy's name is Walter Bond. He was an NBA player.
Oh
yeah. And he went through, I mean, he's a motivational speaker and he's a beautiful speaker. And basically he was going to give up on his dream and he was going to be doing something else. And his dad just questioned him. That's all he did, just question him. He goes, that's great, son. You can do that thing. You're going to make some money, but is it what you really want? Are you ready to give up? And he basically just inspired him to do a little bit more. And he was, I think he was the first walk-on to be a starter in the NBA.
Wow.
Like his rookie season. So like he walked on, did not get drafted, came in and grinded away and earned himself a starting role. And they called his name out and his dad was crying and all that. But his big thing was his dad would pick him up. And what he said was he would pick him up and he would change his perspective. Those were his exact words. And if you think about this, and this is what he believed, that that was a spiritual exchange between a parent and a child, or between somebody older and somebody younger, to be lifted up, right? And I think about it, and he talked about the physical perspective to start with. So let's take my 1.5-year-old. Okay, his look at the world is up here.
Yeah,
right? And he's always looking up at different things. Well, when I pick him up, I literally change his perspective. He gets to see the world differently.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, then when I put him all the way up, I completely change his perspective. When I throw him up in the air, he's larger than life. He feels invincible at that point. Okay,
yeah,
you're changing someone's perspective. And so what this guy says, Walter Bond, is he says, when my dad was too old and I got too big for him to lift me up physically, he lifted me up emotionally, spiritually, mentally.
Yeah.
He was there for me to lift me up and change my perspective, which brings him right back to his story, which was he was ready to give up on his NBA career, and his dad changed his perspective by just questioning something and saying, "Hey, let me do this thing," and he got him to just look at the whatever it was from a new angle, and that was it. So thank you for bringing that up, because 100%, like literally, I stole it.
smart.
I was completely touched by the story, and I thought, man, I'm gonna find a way to create that kind of legend in my own family. I also liked what the guy said too about kids in general, which is you're never in a place where the kid could have screwed up enough that you don't lift them up.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what they've done. It doesn't matter anything. It mattered, like, you need to lift them up. And so he gets to this point where he's like, you know, mom, you got to lift them up. Dad, you got to lift them up. Grandma, you got to lift them up. Grandpa, you got to lift them, like, lift them up. Whatever they've done, let it go, lift them up and change their perspective.
Yeah. And it goes back to this idea of questioning, right? Which I connected back to masterclass. And while we were having this conversation, two of our brand new masterclass students, Nick and Astrid, are on. They're almost on every morning, but they're on there. And so I just asked them. I was like, "Hey, do you have any thoughts that you would like to share about masterclass walking into your first one? Like, what are you excited for? What are your fears? You know, we could talk through that a little bit." So they both shared a little testament. I would love to throw that up here.
Yeah.
So Astrid said, "I'm afraid I'm going to freeze up as soon as I get there." That's what she said. Okay. And I feel like that's common in masterclass. Yeah. Like, I get that feeling too, especially my first one, you know? So I relate, but as the coach, as the person who is in the building to lift them up. And that's the thing, is a lot of people will misunderstand, but I can tell you, everybody watching, this is not about Matt. and he won't talk about that because it goes back to being humble. But the truth is, like, every time I bring up something, or Brian brings up something to try to innovate masterclass a little bit, it's always the first question is, cool, well, don't make it about me. Like, is it not about me? If that's the case, if it's lifting somebody else up, the students, whatever, I'm all in, but it can't be about me. And that's one perspective that I really love. But as the coach, how do you see people when they walk in like that? Like, how do you deal with that? What's the best advice you could give to Astrid walking into tomorrow?
Astrid, good morning. What a great question. That's so cool. And Joey's right. That, I believe, that's probably going through everybody's mind. And let me tell you, it's going through mine too. Every single masterclass, I get crazy nervous. I do the same routine where I listen to my motivations. I reread the plays. I put my headphones in. I do a little workout. Like, the reason why it feels intense is because we care. You care. We care. And so we've heightened up this moment to be big. I mean, you're going to be recorded. You're going to be in front of an audience. You're going to be, mic'd up, and sometimes you're going to be live to the world doing a great play and needing to give that playwright justice to the work that they've done. So I know I'm not helping yet. I'm adding to your stress. Having said that, when you walk in the room, my one and only intention is to lift you up. I promise that. I remember I looked at the adults class 2 nights ago, and we were going to be going live, and I had just taught them a brand new exercise, and I wanted to go live with that exercise. And somebody looked at me and they said, "Wait, so are we going to do that exercise live? Like, on the live, are we going to do it?" And I could tell in their eyes that they didn't want to, that they were afraid, that they were worried that they had done all this practice on something else and they hadn't practiced this, and then by showcasing something they weren't good at live, there was this chance of them failing. And here's what I said. I said, I will not allow you to fall. So if you trust me, I want you to go for it. I know you can do it, but I'll be right there with you. I will feed you. I will listen, and I will help connect you into whatever thing, and I'll make sure that you look good. And it was like that little piece of confidence, nobody screwed up the exercise. As a matter of fact, some people ended up saying that was their best part that they did during the entire showcase, and the stuff that they had practiced and practiced and practiced, they were less confident in and less excited about their final performance. So Astrid, you're going to come in and you may get stopped right away if it's not truthful, or if you're super nervous, or, you know, if you can't speak. And what I encourage you to do is to feel all the feelings, let it all out. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to laugh, laugh. Whatever's going on inside of you, let it happen. And then we will operate from there. I will celebrate the fact that you walked in the room. That's your win. The reason why Masterclass is so intense and why everyone's so scared of it is because you'll hear some critiques that are pretty harsh, pretty in your face, aggressive, because I'm looking to help somebody who's already really good and they might need a little push. They need a little like extra grind. And you might watch their performance and go, this is already good. Like, what is he possibly going to say? And then I come in and just tear it to shreds. And then you're going, wow, if they were that good and he's tearing them to shreds, what's going to happen to me? And I think that's sometimes what happens. And so, anyway, so take this thought process here and realize that when you walk in, I'm going to celebrate the fact that you walked in the room because it's your first go at Masterclass, and just walking in the room right there, you get a win. But then by the end of the hour, trust me, we're going to have bigger, larger goals that we're going to go and we're going to accomplish. So you can do this. It's okay to be nervous. I'll be nervous too, I promise you, and we'll do it together. All right, Joey, what's our next question?
So our next question is from Mr. Nick Mulata, and he says, I'm nervous that I focus too much on memorization and not on my acting.
Okay, Nick.
There are really good questions in here.
All right, so first and foremost, you cannot work too much on your memorization unless you memorize wrong. So hopefully you've memorized the right way where you are loose and you can be coached. You can move in different directions. Your goal as an actor coming into something like this is to make yourself as if you're a puppet. And so you're movable. Like the director can kind of just move you and play different ideas. Because that's essentially what I'm going to do is when you're ready, I'm going to question ideas. I'm going to have you try to find your way to an answer, perhaps a better answer than what you've come up with, if possible. And then we're going to play with the idea. Sometimes I'll hear a note and I'm like, oh, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if this would be good. There's something that you're doing that to me sounds off. The note doesn't sound right. And so I'll go, let's try this note. Let's play this note. And what I need from you is somebody who's willing to play, who's willing to experiment, who's willing to acknowledge that I might be wrong and do it anyway. Because I'll admit I might be wrong. Like I literally don't know until we've done it, because you're your own person. You're going to bring something new and unique to this character. I'm never going to coach you to do it the way I did it or the way someone's done it before, because you're going to bring your own unique take. Having said that, truth is truth. And so if you didn't get the play right, then you'll have missed a lot. So when it comes to your like acting, what I'm going to say too is make sure you know the play. Make sure you know the facts. Make sure you can back up your choices with here's why I chose this. And even if it's wrong, it's fine. I want to know where you're getting your why from. And like, all right, you're like, well, he's sad. Why? Why? You tell me. Why'd you come in sad? You better be able to back that up with some evidence of, well, it starts from here and then it moves on to this. And hey, they mentioned this thing or this person, and based on his backstory, I believe that this is where he is. And my backstory was built off of this line down here that says XYZ. So I realized that he was an orphan. And truthfully, sometimes this happens in the class. I'll hear something like that and I'll go, I never realized that.
A lot of the time.
Let's reverse this. Let's assume you're right. And let's go again. Then I'll listen for the note I didn't like with a new ear. So now I'm listening for the note I maybe thought was off, because that probably is not changed actually. If the note's off, like my ear's going to hear it. That's one of the giftings that I've earned. So, but now I'm going to listen from, okay, I know it's not your choice. You nailed that. So what is it that's making this off? And then we're going to experiment from a different angle, and I'll be happy to be wrong. And so let's move into this new direction. So hopefully you've gotten a lot of rehearsal in with your scene partner. And hopefully you've dug in deep into the given circumstances, into the details of the play, and the things that are really going to bring your performance to life. Don't worry about over memorizing unless you've memorized the wrong way. And there is a way to memorize the wrong way where you get stuck in choices. And that's something we want to avoid for sure.
Yeah. And that's something, I talk with Nick a lot. Also, by the way, Astrid said in all caps, "Let's go!"
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Thank you, Matt.
It's going to be great.
Smiley face. But I've talked with Nick a lot, and even just the email, like we include that article, and I'm just going to shout him out, but he really has done the work. So I'm excited to see what he's got going into Masterclass. But exactly what you said, man, like it's so funny because that's probably why he was feeling that way, because he did it the right way, and the right way is harder.
Yeah.
That's the truth, and you learn that from being in Masterclass and from doing it that way. But once you do it that way, you will never forget the play.
Yeah.
Ever. And then I just wanted to talk on the one thing that you said to him, which was, be careful about, like know your why behind your choices. And it sparked me to think, like, also remember, because this was a big thing for me, when you walk onto that stage, don't put the pressure on yourself and the belief on yourself that you are acting, because you're not. You are, but you're living, and you're living as the character. If you're trying to act, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, and hopefully you're walking into Masterclass with the intention to grow. Your expectation of you is to get better. And if that's what you come into Masterclass with, then you're going to get the right things out of Masterclass. Be very, very cautious of walking into our studio in general, but definitely into the Masterclass with the idea of, I want to finish my scene. I want to master this scene. I want to get a compliment from Matt. Those things may not happen, but you're going to grow. So if you want to grow, if you want to get better, you're in the right place. If you want to get a compliment, if that's your goal, you probably won't get it. Mm-hmm. If your goal is to grow, you're probably going to get the compliment, because it wasn't your goal, but you're probably going to get it because you did the work.
Yeah. And it goes back to this idea. We talk about this a lot on the show under different topics, but this idea of what's your expectation and is it the right one?
Yeah.
Right. So expanding on that, it's this idea of, hey, before you walk in, before you put the pressure on yourself, understand, hey, this is why I'm taking the class. This is why I signed up, and figure that out. And then make sure your why is rooted to something like you just said. That's not, oh, I hope Matt likes the scene or gives me a compliment, because like you said, then you're bummed out, and you could have put up the best performance of your life, and you're bummed out because you were going in there with this unreal expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So that's one piece of advice I can give. And I've done that myself too. So I can totally relate. And then we got a question from Mr. Two times hopped on here today. He's a longtime Masterclass student.
Greg Renfro, what's up, homie? Okay.
Great friend of ours.
Let's see, read that question. What does that say?
It says, have you ever been harder on a student than others because you see the potential in them? Or do you treat everyone the same? Question mark.
All right, Greg, two times.
I said in there, I was like, this is a great question. I cannot wait to ask it.
Well, I think Greg already knows the answer. Because two times is a guy, I mean, he's a next level human being. I always saw him that way. And I know for a fact that I saw him as having more potential than he even saw in himself before he saw it. And so I'm very happy for you, by the way, Greg, and all the things that you're doing in your life and the way you've progressed forward, bro. I mean, it's crazy, but 100% yes, 100%. I believe that for me to be hard on you, for me to give you a harsh critique, you have to earn that. So I'm not going to be harsh on you if you haven't earned that spot, because you have to want it, you have to desire it, and you have to put in the work in order for us to operate at a certain level.
Yeah.
So 100%, I am harder on certain students than other students. I was harder on you time and time again, but mainly it was, I was hardest on you when you did your best work. And that's when you grew the most. And honestly, that's when whatever you paid me to be in the class, that's when you got the most for your money.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I work so hard to make sure that I'm going to be able to help you grow. I love telling the story of when Frank Caliendo came to the studio and I was coaching Frank, but the very first time, this guy's famous. I mean, I'm talking like famous. You know, I watched his show. I see him on ESPN all the time. He does all these crazy impressions. I'm a comedian. He's a household name. I mean, he had his own show called Frank TV. And he was coming into me to get coaching on a new series that he was doing. And I'm like, I was so scared. I was so scared, Joey. And so the way I confronted my fear was with work. I went back to all my acting books and I read about 7 books in like 4 days. And I poured over books I had already read, took extra notes. I mean, my response was, let me work harder. Let me try to rise to the place where I know you're at. And truthfully, just getting to coach Frank for the 3 years I did consistently, now it's off and on, every now and then if he lands a gig, he'll call me. But I was consistently coaching this man for 3 years. He is Frank Caliendo is one of the most crazy, obsessive workaholics I've ever seen when it comes to the grind of acting. And when I would give him a new concept, bro, like he would be like, let's go again. Like we could do better. Let's go again. What do you think? Let's go again. Like he wouldn't even wait for me to tell him what I was going to say. He'd be like, yeah, I agree. Let's go again. I mean, very, very funny guy, but serious about his comedy. So anyway, grinding alongside him made me better and improved my work ethic.
That's awesome.
And so so in other words, Frank earned me having to work harder to make sure that I was making him better.
Yeah.
Right. And so it takes a certain skill set to be able to make the 1% better. But you understand, like, you don't get to be the 1% without like a crazy obsession about getting better.
Yeah.
Like you want to get better. You're hungry for getting better. And what you're used to when you get to a certain level is everyone telling you how good you are.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sick of that. Like, you have no idea how sick I am of hearing that thing. Is there a way you can make me this much funnier? Is there a way you can squeeze out the joke just that much better?
Yeah.
That's what they want to hear. And when I try to teach that to the actors who are just coming up, they want to get complimented. They want to hear like, oh, how good you are. And I'm going, you got it wrong. Trust me, you don't want that. I can give that to you. It's not what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so cool. I want to tell this story really quick because I remember, you and I have always had a pretty tight-knit relationship even before the studio. But I remember when that moment happened and we were at a family party and this sort of goes back to the idea of like the humility that you just have. And we were just sitting there and you were texting and you were like, hey man, this is Frank Caliendo. And you like showed me some of his stuff and you were like, he hired me to coach. Like, I'm so nervous. And you told me, you were like, the only thing I want is a second date.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going in there for. I'm going in there for experience and hopefully like I'm just shooting for that second date. Right. But it wasn't to the family. It wasn't to the crowd. It wasn't to like anybody else. It was just you and I in that moment, and you were willing to be raw about what was coming up. Honestly, your fears about it and like kind of what your goal was. And that was inspiring for me, but it's one of those things that's like engraved in my brain. And it goes back to that idea of you don't want to talk about the success until it's there, and even then let other people do that for you, right?
Yeah.
And I just love that story, because for me that's a very physical representation of that idea, and I'll always remember it.
I'm gonna lift up Frank Caliendo one more time as we end this show today. Frank Caliendo is if you don't know him, he's a wonderful comedian, hilarious human being, somebody who's got a really tender heart. He would never admit it. He would get mad at me every time I say I love you, Frank. He'd be like, whatever, but he does love me. But this guy, not only does he grind in that area, but he's Joey. He's like the most amazing family man I've ever like again, going up to people like I respect and I look up to. He's a guy where I look at the way he dads, the way he's a father, and I'm like, that's doing it right. Like, he definitely puts the time in with his kids. Going back to like my goals, I never had a goal to travel with Frank, to coach him. He flew me all over the place, and I got to work for ESPN. I got to work for Disney. I got to work for all these different companies through him. Those were never my goals, but as I did those things, I got to watch how he operated as a public figure. The way he showed up to a set, the way he spoke and didn't speak, the way he would sort of stay private, and then when he was public, he was very public and very known, and then back down. And this is a guy who you could trust. Yeah. Like I could tell his wife right now, I've been on the road with him. Like, there's nobody I would trust more in the entire world than Frank Caliendo. Going out on the road and being like a single guy, and trust me, like, I mean, there are girls throwing themselves at him, and he's like an absolute like solid human being who's always looking for that next thing. So I bring this up for this reason, because we're doing a podcast, right? Yeah. And I remember right before we started getting into this, Frank did, and he was like, yeah, a little late to the game, but I'm going to lean into this thing. I mean, Frank's podcast is huge. I mean, it's a monster podcast, and good for you, Frank. And if you don't follow Frank's podcast, you totally should. I bet it's frankcaliendo.com. You can go to frankcaliendo.com. I don't know why I'm plugging Frank so much right now, but I do love the guy. It's love. And so what happened was what he told me is he said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this like state of the art podcast facility at my house, and then I'm gonna let people come there for free. And I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, I don't care, whoever you are, you come for free. And basically what it was like any comedian, any performer of any kind who was traveling, he would make it known that he had this killer spot and you could come in and use this stuff for free. Well, what that did was you get what you get out what you put in, right? So he's putting in all this time. He's making connections with each performer that comes into Arizona. Every next level, like up and coming celebrity who comes into town knows there's one spot to go that's super fun, that's really funny. I get to have Frank on my show. Well, guess what? Frank gets to be on their shows. But now he's building his own audience through giving, through loving, through passing out, what he has. And what does he get back? Followers. He gets back more love. He gets people like me talking good about him because his why was correct. His why was, I got this. I'm doing this thing. Let me help other people. I know down the line it's going to pay off for me. Yeah. And going back really quick, just on that topic with Frank, I remember because you talked about him coming in and like talking to us about that, checking out our podcast setup, all that. And it was neat because of that deep family root, and you feel it. And one of the things he talked to us about for like 30 minutes was just this trip he had just taken with his daughter to Comic-Con, and she got to meet all of the superheroes, and she's like a huge fan. Right. And that just shows the love right there. And you could tell he was so passionate about it. That mattered more than any gig he's ever done or anything like that. And then he's been making these videos with his daughter too, which are some of my favorite, where like he's teaching her to do impersonations, and she's hilarious. And she does it, and it's so funny.
but it's like it just goes back to that connection.
By the way, I trained Juliet Caliendo too. She's on my resume. So when she blows up,
and she will.
Yeah, I know. So when she blows up, I'll definitely say that. But no, you're right, dude, for sure. Like crazy. He cared more about her meeting them because he already met them. For him, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But to get to see his daughter meet this famous person, meet somebody that she really looked up to. Yeah, I mean, he was all about that.
Yeah, so cool. And this turned into a little bit of a masterclass sort of episode, but it goes back to, it's sort of spirit led, but that idea of you put in the work and then you get out whatever work you put in.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where it kind of perfectly aligned. We had the right people in the comments, and thank you to everybody who commented. We got a couple that flew in. Nick said, I want every weak point exposed so I can improve. Then he said, thank you for the help.
Love it.
So yeah, it's just been a great morning. Thank you.
Let me end right here with an exercise, everybody. So first and foremost, please subscribe to this channel, like the video, share the video, help us spread this light-driven content to the planet. Here's your exercise. Take your phone, okay, and open up one of the apps that you use a lot. Let's just say, for me, it's YouTube. I've got the YouTube Premium because I don't like to listen to the commercials. Okay, what do I use YouTube Premium for? Well, let's find out. What happens is this computer right here, because it's a computer, this is going to give you, it's going to send out what you put in. All right. So here, and by the way, this is part of why we do the show, is we're hoping that this is something that is delightful for you. This is something that can be good and joyful as a part of your day. So that you can take this, and this is positivity, okay? Because not everything on this thing is bad. There's a lot of good things on this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's being suggested to me. Push Yourself Every Day by Tony Robbins. Apply it for 30 days. Try it for a month. Powerful stuff. Motivation by Jordan Peterson.
All right, cool. So Matt's list might make you feel terrible about yourself.
God will make a way. Even when he can't, he can. Mindset. But you can see what I'm feeding myself.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now, and in between, there were a couple Final Four, biggest brawls and stuff.
I'm just gonna do the same here. Mine is Facebook, and top one, Arizona Cardinals QB has been elite all season. Madden NFL 21 highlights. AZ Cardinals safety Buda Baker. Cowboys sad fan. Like top 7 are all football related, so you can tell.
And you do. You're right.
Yeah.
Now think about this, Joey. The sad fan one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that's toxic.
Mm.
Because it's funny, yes, and it was like interesting, but this is the media taking something, exposing something, exploiting something. That would send you down a wormhole, and that's going to bring you to more negativity.
Yeah.
It will draw more negativity to you.
Solid point.
So, and that's what I always say, like, it's okay that you do whatever you do. You just have to acknowledge what it is and realize this is a vice of whatever kind that I have. And what I'm putting in, I'm going to get more of that out. And I just want to be careful that I don't let something like a side thing dominate what's coming out, because eventually it literally will make you sad. It's the craziest thing, because even sports, it's still the news.
Yeah, 100%.
And what do they highlight? They highlight anything that's going to get you to click. They highlight anything that makes you emotional. And do you need to reread the exact same information from a different perspective? No, but it's like it's addicting,
Yeah.
So if you know it, great. And then you can decide how much of this in my life do I really want, and am I willing to take, and what am I willing to sacrifice? What bit of success am I willing not to get for this enjoyment?
Yeah.
Because you're totally allowed to have it.
Yeah.
Like I look at like my time with my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's invaluable to me. So I understand, I get it, that for the next 20 years, I won't be perhaps able to put in as many hours as somebody who doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Or who's not as connected with their kids as I am. I'm willing to sacrifice whatever success that would have been to make sure that I've got a good relationship with my kids. And I can tell you, I wasn't able to go home yesterday, and it made me a little like bummed. And again, you get out what you put in. This is like what made my day. Is I text Leanne, I'm like, sorry, I can't come home, and she just said, babe, I'm so proud of you and thank you, and I'll be praying for you. And she goes, and I want you to know your daughter prayed for you over dinner. And I figured she was gonna, I didn't know what kind of prayer she was gonna pray. Like, I'm so thankful for Dad who worked so hard for us or whatever. She didn't. She said, I'm so thankful, God, for all the time my dad spends with me.
Oh,
I know. It made me want to cry. And I'm like, boom, like good. Because right now when I'm grinding, I hope that what they're not receiving is that Dad doesn't love me. Dad doesn't care about me. I hope that's not the case. And I want to make sure that that's not the case so that when I do come home, they get every ounce of who I am.
Yeah. And when it's few and far between like that, then when there are days where you can't be there, that becomes even more important to them. They value it even more because they realize, wow, that is special, and that's cool. It just goes back to like anything we can realize that with, where it's like you lose something for a day or a week or a month and you realize, oh man, like I had a deep connection with that. Like I didn't realize how big it was, but now that it's gone, now that I haven't had it for a day or two or a month or whatever, I value it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This has been Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio Podcast. 2 times. Astrid, Nick, all the fans out there, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.